In today's lemon watercolor tutorial, we're going to jump right into the fun part, adding soft, juicy layers of color. I've already prepped the drawing and masked out the whites with masking fluid. Let's paint this cheerful lemon together, one gentle layer at a time. I'm just going to wet the lemon, cross section and the whole lemon. Now I'm wetting them because I don't want the first layer of color to be very bright or saturated. And right now this looks very bright, but it's going to dry a lot lighter. All right, get that edge. All right, so we're going to let that dry and then we're going to do the background. So I'll be back. Okay, so our yellow is dry. So now we're just going to wet the background. Don't mind me, I'm just trying to pick the cat fur out. I mean, if you have a cat and you have this problem too, please comment. I mean, I can't be the only one that's constantly picking dog or cat fur out of my paintings, am I? It's a small price to pay because they are such lovely little babies. I couldn't imagine not having animals. I am going to move to my cobalt blue. So I'm going to test it just on a strip because I usually like to do that. And I like to give you the idea of how watery that is. See, that's quite watery because I don't want it to be really dark starting out. Your hand will get steadier as you get used to painting. Trust me, it does. I know it doesn't seem like it will right away, but when you get used to painting, you'll be able to go right around an edge like that. Now I'm just going to switch to my little brush there with the tip so I can just kind of get down in here. And I'm not really that worried about it because it's going to be really dark in there anyway. So I'm going to be going back over that with dark pigment. So my poor little lemon looks like it might have got a little smushed on one side there. So you can take just a damp brush, and I mean just barely damp. I'm actually squeezing it. And I'm just going to touch that edge, and that's going to pick up some of that paint. I mean, some will go back in, but luckily that's kind of on the shadow side anyway because our light is coming this way, so it won't be that noticeable. So let's let that dry. Our background is dry. That was cobalt blue wet into wet. Now we're going to take some ultramarine blue, and I am just going to start to darken the corners. And I'm putting that on wet, on dry, and I'm just going to take a little water and I'm just going to back into that. So I'm just going with a damp brush. I'm going to wiggle that there and just soften that a bit. Now I'm dropping back into that wet, but I've picked up heavier pigment, meaning less water. See, I'm actually working the wrong way. Let me show you this. Let me turn it, because when you have a damp brush, you need to come from the outside into the edge. You cannot go from the edge out. You will just run into problems. So I'll turn it back. This is our there, we'll just pick a little bit of that up. And now I've got no water, nothing on my brush, just damp. So it's actually sucking pigment up. But make sure you don't put that damp brush into a section here or there because it will suck pigment right off a spot and make a white spot. So the only other thing I'd like to do is put a little dark down at this corner. All right, let's turn that. We're going to let that dry. The ultramarine blue is dry. I want to reinforce the actual really, really dark shadows, and I'm going to do that by using my ultramarine blue and my burnt sienna, and I'm going to make a dark bluey sort of black brown with the two of those. See how that, you can bend it to the blue and make it blue black, or you can keep it to the brown like I did. And I'm going to keep it to the brown because I have a lot of blue underneath, so that's going to show through, so that's going to make that bluey dark. You don't want it to look too dark. See, that's looking pretty dark just with the blue underneath. And again, make sure you don't have a lot of water on your brush. I'm going to blend that out. And if you've noticed, I've kind of gone in and left a little ridge of blue, only because when I drew it, I wasn't really paying attention. I drew it fairly quick, and these lemons are actually kind of touching, but you want it to overlap a tiny bit, so I've kind of gone in under that way, and then I'm going to come out this way. Now that's a lot of blue, but that's okay because there's actually a shadow there that we will be okay with. Oh, try not to get it on your yellow. I'm not really paying attention. I'm talking, and sometimes I find it hard to concentrate and paint while I talk. I'm using an awful small brush. I could have grabbed a bigger one. And this is really dark. I might have maybe just opted for just the burnt sienna, but I don't want to be all day building up layers, so I went right away for the gusto. Now I'm going to take down, I'm actually going to move the board so you can see where the point of your brush is going. So this is where it's actually sitting on the table. And you need to anchor things with a shadow when you actually do paint them, because if you don't, they're going to float. Alright, so I'm going to actually just grab some, see the burnt sienna, just to lighten that, because this shadow is going to be, and if you notice I left my edge, whoop, this time, this shadow is going to be a lot lighter than that inner shadow. The shadows are dry. Now, if you look, this is really dark. I am going to go over this with some more blue, and I'm afraid that it's going to get so dark that it's not going to look transparent anymore. So I thought I would share this. First, I'm going to clean up these edges and kind of reshape my lemons into something I like a little better down by the shadow part, and then I'm going to lift a little bit of that color so you can just kind of see the process of if something does go wrong. I'm going to turn my board. I'm going to start putting this lemon a little behind the other lemon. And this edge is in the shadow anyway. It's not going to be crisp. In fact, be careful with the whole water ferrule thing. I am famous for that. Then I'm going to come back this way, and I want to, see, told you. I'm going to come back this way, and I want to reclaim this little yellow edge. And again, it's not going to be crisp because that bottom part is being obscured by the shadow. And then the one I've painted over 3 dozen times, you can hear that squeaky sound. That's actually the masking fluid. Make sure you don't scrub it off. And remember, you're not rubbing, you're just blotting. Okay, so while this is wet, I'm going to just drop a little of our Hansa yellow light. And again, that'd be dark anyway, so I'm not too worried. I just want to start bending it to the yellow. Actually, as well, while I'm here, I could actually do my little end as well. It kind of got a little lost. And the nice thing about these little ends is they're all kinds of funny little shapes, so it doesn't have to be perfect. The area that I feel is too dark right in here, I'm going to wet with my brush, and I'm going to work it. Soft brush. And see how I'm taking the paint off as I go? All right, I can start to see the underneath, because we can always go back in afterwards and put a dark color on that once we are done. And I see a little spot here too that I feel is really kind of too dark. So I'm just going to pick up some of that water, just so the paint I disturbed doesn't go out too far. While I'm letting that dry, I'm going to get some of this dark mixture, and I am just going to throw a little dot in there. Let's let that dry. Okay, so that is dry, and I just want to start giving the actual lemon some form. I'm going to mix Indian yellow and Hansa yellow light, and then and I mean a smidge of ultramarine blue. And I'm going to start around the outside, and in fact, don't forget to include that part that's underneath. I'm going to take some water, and I am going to blend that out, and I mean really, really well. Oh, that might have been a little too much water. If that's the case, just drop in a little more of this, and we're going to go underneath. In fact, that's going to end up being a lot darker under here because of the shadow from the end of the lemon. Dark, going to actually wrap around the outside. And remember, nobody wants it to be perfect. So I'm just kind of laying in some color other places, not connecting it, just giving it a little bit of texture. So now I'm going to do the same with this. I don't want it to be perfect. It's always going to be a little darker around the edges, that pit too. Make sure you get the middle. It's going to have a dark spot in around here as well. So I will take and I'll put a little bit of water, drawing some of that out. Make sure you're not too hard edged everywhere. Let's get that dry and then we will resume. So this layer is dry. Now we are going to add almost an orangey layer, and you don't want too many colors. Cat hair, right? You want to keep it fresh and simple. So I'm going to take my Indian yellow, that nice orange Indian yellow, and I'm going to use that. Take it up that way. Make sure you rinse your brush good if you're going back in to pick some of this up. That orange color comes right across on that side and almost up around. This is where I find a Kleenex, and it's good when you've got textured. You can kind of just blot a little. Now, on the other side, I'm going to use the Hansa yellow light and a little tiny bit of the cobalt blue, and it's going to be like a light green. It comes around, it comes down about there where it's sitting in the shadow. It even comes onto this side of our lemon. So again, I should be turning to work into that edge so I can grab it. Okay, so here is where I kind of stippled some of the masking fluid, and I want it to be a little darker there so those light parts will show up. So dry your brush off so it's just damp in the middle. Give it a couple of dabs. We're going to move over here. It's going to be a little greenish, sort of in spots, but almost brownish. So I have taken the actual little bit of green that I mixed and taken some Indian yellow and mixed that in with it. So then I'm going to start to kind of follow where the shadows are. You get that middle. And as I do that, I'm going to soften that out. And you can vary the color a little. Some might be a little brighter, some might be a little darker. Like in around here where the shadow is will definitely be darker. By the lighter side, it's going to be more vibrant. It's going to have a little more yellow in it. So I'm just kind of touching that and letting the water take it. And now I'm just going to drop some of these darker ones in. I mean, it's not really dark, but it's dark compared to the rest of it. Kind of a little darker down by the center because of course you've got the pith in there. It's opaque. I'm also going to take some Hansa yellow light, and I'm going to drop some of that in places. Just throw a little water in there and that'll help them kind of mingle. Now I'm going to take that orangey yellow. All right, let's let that dry and then we'll be back. All right, so we removed the masking. Now I want to glaze over top of the background. I'm going to start some burnt sienna. I'm going to pull that out. Then I'm going to add cobalt blue, go along, and I'm adding water as I go. Okay, so I'm definitely going to start turning my board now because it's almost impossible to get around these edges without turning. Start in the corner, get lots of paint, and I'm going to tip my board up a little. Keep our edge going, keep your edge wet. You can hear my cat scratching to get in. This will give it a nice rich color. Sorry, I might have gone off camera a little there. So again, I'm just kind of alternating edges. I don't want one side to dry out and then when I try to go back, it won't be good. Especially if you can keep a little edge like that with some water on it. Or not water, but oh, there's that little white piece, whatever that was. See if we can get rid of it again. I'm sorry about the scratching. I can't get up to let him in. He'll stop maybe. As long as he doesn't start meowing. Alrighty. Bring some of that down. So now we're connected. Okay. 1 sec and we'll dry that and I'll be right back. I'm going to take some Hansa Yellow Light and a little bit of Indian Yellow, and I'm just going to reinstate my edge. A little bit of the Hansa Yellow Light here where the most dots, leaving some white. Grab a little bit of that darker color. And we'll add a little bit of the blue to make it sort of that greeny color. I want a little bit of burnt sienna just down sort of here. And I mixed that with some of the yellow. I'm just picking off some of that. There we go. Now I'm going to take a little bit of that burnt sienna and yellow mixture, start shaping our little section. Be careful saving some of those whites. Now this is your seed. Let's kind of start to put that in. A little more of our burnt sienna yellow mixture. Make sure it's not too bright, you want it muted. And you do not need to do detail on absolutely everything. That's about all the detail except for a couple really dark strokes that I'm going to do on the inside. Let's just put a little water there and let's drop a tiny bit of that burnt sienna in there. Make sure there's no hard edge because that would be very soft. And the other up here and right there. Just soften that a little with some water. Okay, so also down where it's not quite white. Same with the little tiny edge right here. a few little dots. And that's all I'm doing. So we have a fairly dark little line in our seed right here. And that's all you need to suggest a seed.